So you've heard that Deadpool's married, right? How did that even happen? And when did he meet Dracula? Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read it automatically back to you. All alterations of the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. This is an older storyline, but we are going to finally reveal when Deadpool got married. And our story begins with Deadpool laying on a park bench with a gunshot wound in his head, singing to himself, but as he lays there, a shadowy figure appears and reaches down towards him. Deadpool asks if he's here for his family jewels, and he throws the man over himself and he notices the man's fangs. Vampire! Deadpool says that at least he's not sparkling, and he's wearing a shirt, and soon after the man begins to get away. Deadpool chases them down and he kicks the man in the back, and the two of them begin to roll past a Queen's Guard. Really, bro? You got nothing? Sorry, mate, off in 5. Piss off! As they continue to roll away from the guard, the vampire bites Deadpool's arm, and then he spits it back out, telling him that you taste awful! There are worse tasting parts of me. As a bus passes, the vampire disappears, and Deadpool asks if British vampires can turn invisible. Then Deadpool tells him nice try, he must think I'm an idiot, and he swings at the air, and the vampire gets away on the top of the bus. The vampire returns back to a house, and as he walks in, he says that the message was sent, and he was not followed. Then Deadpool jumps on his back and tells him, yes you were, and he stabs him in the back with an umbrella. Once Deadpool's done, the figure that the man was talking to asks him, what is the meaning of this? And Deadpool tells him that I will be asking the questions, who are you? And the figure tells him, Dracula. Dracula tells him that he was sent a message, and when Deadpool checks his pockets, he says, you want to hire me? Dracula tells him, I did, until you killed Raoul. But maybe I'll just snap your neck and drink your blood instead. Dracula tells Deadpool that he understands that he has a special talent, and Deadpool asks him if he's been talking to Squirrel Girl, because she said she wouldn't be gossiping. Silence! Dracula begins to tell Deadpool to look into his eyes, and he wants Deadpool to pull out his gun and shoot himself in the head. Okie dokie, usually people hire me to kill other people instead of killing myself. Dracula notices that he hasn't pulled the trigger though, as the gun is now at Deadpool's head, and he asks him why not. Deadpool tells him that your vampire whammy doesn't affect me. I'm impervious to mind control, even from myself. Dracula then takes Deadpool and pours him a glass of wine. This is wine, right? It is the finest wine, and I'm going to inform you why I've called you here. I am to be married, and I will unite the monster world, but some people do not want this marriage to happen, so I need you to go and bring my wife here safely. Deadpool sniffs the wine. This is blood. Oh, I see, the finest wine is blood. So where is she? Or the lucky gentleman? Dracula tells him that she is in the Arabian Peninsula, awaiting to take his hand in marriage. So, Deadpool sets off on his journey, riding a llama and eating a burrito until he reaches the ruins of where she is. Dracula continues to tell him that there are members of her tribe, even some of his own vampire line, that do not want the factions to have a peace, which is why he's sending Deadpool. But as Deadpool begins to go deeper into the chambers, he finds some dead bodies and some assassins already surrounding the coffin. They tell Deadpool to leave, but he begins to shoot at them all. That was so easy, I'll throw in me shooting myself for free. But shortly after, the assassins reappear and they begin to attack, and every time Deadpool attacks, they just disappear. Then Deadpool tells him, okay, the trick is to stab where they will be, and he begins swinging his swords around randomly, and as they appear, blood begins to fly everywhere. Deadpool notices that one of the assassins appears again and tells him to get away from that horrible spider thing, but then he sees that it's a bomb. Let's see how much time Oh. That's when he notices the 1 second timer, and the explosion goes off! Deadpool grabs the coffin and he begins to try and escape. Seeing as he can't get out, Deadpool sees the water down below and he hopes that the coffin can float, and he throws it down there. Soon after, he's thrown into the lake. When he starts to pull the coffin ashore and sit by the coffin, he states how it's so nice to carry a corpse that he didn't make, and then the coffin cracks open. Later, Deadpool heads to the zoo, and then he tries to steal a zebra to help him carry the coffin, and he begins to run through town. One of the townspeople sees the coffin and asks if it's what he thinks it is. Deadpool says yes. But if we pretend it's empty, would that be okay with you? Townsman says yes. And Deadpool says good, because the fiancé of Dracula is totally not inside. With that, everyone starts to run inside their houses, slamming and locking their doors. Deadpool says, man, the streets are deader than Gwen Stacy. As Deadpool continues, a Minotaur statue comes to life asking what is the meaning of this obscenity. This obscenity is a zebra, and it's a beautiful creature. After suggesting that the Minotaur pull his cart, the Minotaur begins to attack him. Deadpool starts swinging his sword at the Minotaur's head, only hitting its horns, and shortly after, the Minotaur begins to charge and impale Deadpool, running him through a building. As Deadpool lays there, he tells him that he would love to stay, being as he's never been killed by a Minotaur before, but he has a zebra to catch, and he jumps off a cliff. Deadpool then takes a scooter from a couple riding by, asking if this was the Uber that he ordered, and he takes off. As the man begins to get back up, the Minotaur comes looming over the couple. Deadpool begins to chase after the runaway zebra, and just behind him is the Minotaur on a scooter. Deadpool catches up and he jumps onto the wagon and he begins to taunt the Minotaur with a red sheet. As the Minotaur speeds up and crashes through the wagon, it begins to fly into the river down below. And then, in a purple mist, it begins to swirl, and a voice begins to ask Deadpool if he's the one that she is to thank for freeing her. She tells him that she is Shiklah, the queen of the undead. And who are you? Pool. Deadpool. Shiklah tells him that it is time for him to claim his reward. One kiss. And as they begin to kiss, Deadpool falls dead. As she steps away, she tells her flying creature, of course, she kills the first man that she meets in a millennia. But Deadpool appears behind her with his gun to her head. And he tells her to keep her lips to herself or she's gonna make him do something that he's going to regret. And that's his job. The two of them begin to walk down the street. Deadpool asks how long she's been in the coffin. And Shiklah tells him about her past. A long time ago, Shiklah's family used to rule the night, but as time passed, vampires began to challenge them, and after an attack on their bannermen, a war began. After her brothers were killed, her father hid her in the coffin to wait until the war was over, or until she was wed. As they continue to travel, Deadpool sees a train and decides that they're gonna hitch a ride. But as they board the train, Deadpool is met by Blade, telling him that he's in over his head. Blade tells him to let him do what he needs to do, and Deadpool tells him that that's not going to happen. So the two of them begin to fight. Blade knocks Deadpool into a box filled with Beanie Babies, and Deadpool yells back at him, I hit Grandma Gold, I tell ya! Blade then grabs Deadpool, and Shiklah fires a blast, knocking Blade down. Shiklah then starts to grow her horns. Deadpool states that he didn't see her monster side before, and Blade tells him that's not her monster side. Shiklah begins to transform into a massive purple beast, and Deadpool tells Blade, help! Kill him with fire! Back over in the monster metropolis, Dracula returns home to find that he has some unwanted guests in his home. He begins to storm in, and that's when he sees Shiklah's brothers. Amjad tells Dracula that their death was a ruse to preserve their bloodline, but as Dracula's soon-to-be brother-in-law, they're now at his service. And they ask where Shiklah is, and Dracula tells him that he's not sure, but he's about to go find out. That's when he turns to his assistant, asking how they're alive, because if they are, Shiklah's not the monarch. He goes on to state that he's now in the mood for blood. Back on the train, Shiklah begins to attack Blade, and Deadpool tells her that she doesn't know what vampires are like in this era. They're topless and they sparkle. Blade has suffered enough. Shiklah then reverts back to her lesser monster form, and Blade begins to attack again, and he ends up tackling himself and Deadpool out of the train. Once they're outside, the two of them begin to use their swords, and they climb onto the top of the train. And once they're on top, they continue fighting, but both are forced to lay down as they pass into a tunnel. Once out of the tunnel, Blade jumps up, knocking Deadpool off the roof of the train car. Deadpool then states that he was hoping he didn't have to do this, but feel his fist of explosive rage, and he throws a Hulk fist at Blade. Blade looks at it as it bounces off, and then it explodes. Afterwards, Deadpool thinks that he's won, but that's when Blade appears, slicing into Deadpool's head. And just as he's about to finish off Deadpool, Blade is told to stop by Shiklah, who then uses her powers to seduce Blade. Deadpool gets back up and he tells Blade to go to the next car, while Shiklah questions how Deadpool is even walking. Deadpool then kicks the lock for the train, leaving Blade behind. And as Deadpool wrings the blood out of his mask and begins to heal up, Shiklah tells him that he's strange and handsome. I suppose you went almost totally blind in that coffin of yours, Deadpool tells her. Shiklah even tells him that her pet bug even likes him. But Deadpool tells her to hang on. He's got to call in a ride. Siri, call the idiot. And after a moment, he calls his friend Hydra Bob and he tells him, you got nothing better to do. Come help pick me up. As they're waiting for Bob to come and get them, Deadpool and Shiklah begin to go sightseeing in Europe until he arrives. And Shiklah asks what is that strange device that Deadpool used. So he tells her that everyone has one. It's called a phone. People use it to exchange wanted and unwanted pictures of their genitalia with each other. As the day continues, Deadpool states how he's actually having fun and he hasn't even killed anyone. And Shiklah tells him that she's kind of enjoying herself, so she needs to visit again after she marries Dracula. Deadpool tells her that it would probably be a bad idea to bring Dracula back to Europe, and she tells him that maybe Deadpool would like to go down with her. She knows of some fun in the dark. What? Oh yeah, the Catacombs. Wow, you like dead stuff as much as me. If you like Mexican as much as I am, I'm in trouble. But Shiklah tells him that she's feasted on Incas and didn't care for it. Shiklah then tells Deadpool about how her people are basically immortal, and he tells her he's kind of like that too. Shiklah then says that news should not make her sad, but it does because they are so well matched. And Deadpool notices something and asks if she feels it too, and she tells him that she does, but sadly, she's betrothed to another. And Deadpool tells her, not that, the cold spot. When Deadpool turns around, a ghost appears, and then more start to show up. The ghosts begin to attack Shiklah, and the two of them try to fight them off, but their abilities and weapons are useless against spirits. A wraith then takes control of Deadpool and focuses back on Shiklah, and Shiklah grabs Deadpool and kisses him, draining the spirit out of him. Deadpool asks, what happened? But when he gets up, he asks Shiklah, what are we doing down here? And she tells him that she doesn't understand, but he tells her that they just need to keep this as a business trip. He doesn't need to get too attached to her. And she goes on to state that he might be the one not being honest with his emotions. But Deadpool states that he's nothing but bad news. Besides, she's already got someone waiting for her. Once they step outside of the catacombs, they are then surrounded by Hydra soldiers. And Deadpool says, "Don't worry, one of these guys is my friend." But later, inside a cell inside of a submarine, Shiklah says that this seems like a lousy getaway. And Deadpool tells her, yeah, Bob must be busy. Shiklah then begins to think that maybe Deadpool's friend isn't as loyal as he thought. But while they talk, Bug begins to chew through the cell doors and the two of them escape again. As they turn a corner though, Deadpool sees Bob and he runs up to him. And the guard says, "Bob? You must mean the other Bob. Wait a minute." And then Deadpool snaps his neck. Behind them, the real Bob appears and asks, what is Deadpool doing with Bob from accounting? "Well, I thought it was you." "Wait, you thought he was me, so you killed him?" But before they can continue their conversation, the sub is then pulled out of the waters by AIM, because everyone is now AIM's prisoner. Will Deadpool get the bride of Dracula back to Dracula? Will Deadpool fall in love with her? Will they end up together? Well, since this is an older story and we already know he's gonna get married, you know that that's gonna happen. But if you want to find out how they end up together, join us next time when we continue this storyline. It is a humongous book. Literally, it's like 700 pages. So we're trying our best to get through this. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time right here at Deadpool, Dracula's Gauntlet. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Comicstorian and Instagram at Comicstorian, and check out our gaming channel where you can get Let's Plays, comic books, and various other things from me and Natalie about video games. That's over at Eligible Monster, and I'll see you over there.